Now today's topic is grass and legume forages for healthy animals. So let me talk about grass forages first, and then I'll go and talk about legume forages. So basic characteristic of grass forages, they have one cotyledon, that's just the embryonic leaf by definition, and that will give rise to single seed leaf. And these leaves, when you look at the leaves, that will have a parallel venation. Their vein will just run parallelly to one another. That's their parallel venation. And we'll show the picture in the coming slides of these cotyledon and then the venation, also the root. So all the grass forages have the fibrous root, and flowers or their seed will be either in the spike, raceme, or panicle arrangement. So over here we can see this is the seed of a corn, and we can see the one single cotyledon you see here, and from there it will be developing single seed leaf. So when we look at the germinating seed of any grass species, we'll just one leaf will emerge instead of two in case of leguminous forages. So over here, these are the style different grass forages will have for developing their flower and seeds. So if it is like this is name is spike. These with the branching from the main stem and then developing other seeds. Here you can see on the left and right, these style are called raceme and these are panicle. So we are just trying to refresh our memory. There are different kind of grass species, and just by looking at their flower or leaves or their roots, you should be able to identify whether that plant is a grass species or not, because it will be important for developing your pasture by planting the desirable forages. That's why I wanted to just refresh everybody's memory about what grasses are, what legumes are. So over here we can see the parallel venation. So these main veins are just running parallelly with one another. And this is the fibrous root system. These are the basic characteristics of grass forage. Okay, so let's go and look at the common grass forages, some of the pictures, some of the names. So there are different kind of forages. One is warm season perennials. By definition, you may know perennials means once we establish that kind of forage, that will just be able to grow for several years without needing us to plant again if we manage that stand well with the sustainable grazing practices. So those perennial grass species, the Bahia grass is very common. And here I have included the soil type, what kind of soil it will be growing very well is the most sandy soil. If you have a sandy soil in your pasture, think about the Bahia grass. It is a very suitable grass species and perennial grass species that grows during the warm season, sometimes beginning in April and growing until October. So that's a very wide growth period of this grass and very hardy for grazing. Okay, Bermuda grass is another perennial warm season grass species. But for this, the soil type for growing Bermuda grass will range from light sand to clay loams. So if you have very heavy clay type of soil, Bermuda grass may not be a good choice for your pasture. So you need to be mindful what kind of soil you have in your pasture, and need to select your forage species, suitable forage species. While selecting the forage species, you also have to be mindful what kind of animals you are grazing, you are growing the forages for, and also choose that suitable forage for that animal species. So another warm season perennial species is Dallas grass. It will be suitable to grow in soil type which is well drained and which remains moist most of the time. And Johnson grass will be suitable to those soil which is medium to heavy, like clay type soil. If that kind of soil, if you don't have a sandy soil, but kind of clay loam or clay type of soil, then this Johnson grass will be suitable for your pasture. Switchgrass, that has a very short growth period. However, it is the native grass. And if you have deep kind of soil and that is not drained very well, that kind of area, switchgrass will be the suitable species, perennial warm season species for your pasture. Okay, over here you can see, just to identify Bahia grass. This is the characteristic flower and seed head of the Bahia grass. By looking at that seed head, you will be able to identify this is the Bahia grass. Okay, this is the Bermuda grass. Again, look at the seed head, and that's the characteristics symbol of Bermuda grass. And this is the Johnson grass. This is a panicle kind of inflorescence. And this is the Dallas grass over here. So another type of forages you should think about: warm season annuals. Once you establish the perennial pasture in your land, you may have to overseed with the annuals just to increase the production duration, as well as the productivity and quality, and then variety in your pasture. So those can be warm season annuals. Grass species can be millets. There are 3 different kinds of millets: brown top millets, foxtail millets, and pearl millets. Pearl millets actually grows taller than these first 2. So if you are making silage, that pearl millet may be a good choice. However, if you are considering for grazing, these first 2 will be better than the pearl millet. And these millets will grow in well-drained, productive soil because they are very productive forages, and of course they will need the productive soil type. Crabgrass is the warm season annual, but this crabgrass will reseed very well. So if you have established crabgrass once, it will come back if it has a chance to produce seed, if the animals do not eat everything. So it has a very good reseeding capacity, and the well-drained soil is the suitable soil to grow crabgrass. So over here you can see the flowering portion of brown top millet, and then this is the crabgrass. You see the seed head. So those are the characters that you can differentiate these forages by looking at their how they develop their flowers and seed. So now let's look at the cool season perennial grass species. Orchard grass is one of it, but it will be suitable to the northern part of the state and above. So it will require well-drained, fertile soil, and it may be growing in a medium to heavy soil, not in a sandy soil. It may require a little heavier than that. Perennial ryegrass can be grown throughout the state. Especially it will be better in the northern part, but still it may be possible to grow towards the center as well. But this will suits well with the clay loam type of soil. Tall fescue, also the central and northern portion of the state, and it will be requiring moist, productive soil to grow. So over here you see the orchard grass on the left and tall fescue on the right, flowering at the flowering stage. And these are the just most of the leaves will be at the close to the ground level, both of these species, and this flower, their seed will be above the ground. That's their characteristic. These are the semi-erect species. If we classify the forages in different, based on their growth pattern, they are called semi-erect species. So another will be the cool season annual grass species. So one is barley, which will be suitable towards the northern portion of the state, and it will require well-drained, productive soil. Oats, it will be good for clay loam to sandy loam soil, and it can be grown pretty much throughout the state. Rye, this is the forage rye, and it will require well-drained, sandy soil to clay loam. So it will do well if from this range, sandy to clay loam. Annual ryegrass will grow well in the clay loam soil, but this is the very common species, pretty much grown throughout the state, and grown more than any other this annual grass species in this state. Wheat will require medium to heavy soil, and it can be grown throughout the state. So you can see over here a field grown with the annual ryegrass here. Okay, with that, let me begin with the legume forages. So basic characteristic of the legume forages, unlike grass forages, they have two cotyledon, which is the embryonic embryonic leaves, the cotyledons, and because of that, it will give rise to two seed leaves. When they first germinate, it will have two leaves emerging together, and the veins will be just like in a web. That's called reticulate venation. Unlike the grass leaves, they will have just the reticulate venation that will look at those images later on. So roots will be the taproot system, unlike fibrous roots for grass forages, and they have nodules, which are required for fixing the nitrogen. Okay, and flowers and seeds are different as compared to grass forages, and they are different for different kind of species, leguminous species. So over here you can see the cotyledons, two cotyledons, and then two leaves emerging from the seed. There's the first and second leaves there, and the taproot system you can see. The taproot means the main roots emerge from the plant, the seed, and then their other secondary roots develop from the taproot. And this is the reticular venation. It just forms like a web kind of structure here, unlike the leaves of the grass forages. And these are the nodules, which are formed by the rhizobium bacteria that presents in association with the leguminous roots in the field, which are having the leguminous forages there. in the new field, if we are planting the leguminous forages, leguminous seeds at the very first time, we need to inoculate with that suitable rhizobium bacteria while planting the seed. Otherwise, they may not be able to just developing these nodules and fixing the atmospheric nitrogen and make it available to plants. So this is, if those are planted properly, there should be the root nodules associated with the legume roots. So you see the clear big taproot and then other secondary roots develop from the taproot, and lots of active nodules you can see here. The pink color means active. That means the bacteria within these nodules are working to fix the atmospheric nitrogen and make that nitrogen available for those plants. That's why when you combine 1/3 of the stand of the forages in your pasture, the nitrogen fertilizer is not required to apply. Nitrogen fertilizer means commercial nitrogen fertilizer will not be required if we have 1/3, at least 1/3 of the stand, the legume stand of legume forages. Okay. So over here we can see the structure of the leaves depending on different types of leguminous plants. You see the leaf structure. Unlike the grass forages, there are different kind of leaves. So by looking at leaves, you can tell these are not grass species. Over here, there are different kind of flower structure belonging to different kind of leguminous plants. And there you can see the seed of the different leguminous forages. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at common legume forages that we can grow in Alabama and other Southeast states having the similar climatic condition. So one of the warm season perennial leguminous forages is Sericella aspidija, which is and this variety shown in here in the picture is AU grazer. That is the variety developed by the Auburn University for grazing situation. And if you look at from the top, from the bottom to the top, there, these plants are having leaves. Other Lespedijas may not have these leaves developed from the close to the ground. That's why this is good for grazing situation. If animal eats like 50% or up to this level, still there will be leaves left intact with the plants, and those will be useful for developing the for regrowth, for doing the photosynthesis and vigorous regrowth of the plants after we finish grazing. So these forages can be grown in a wide range of situation, and this is the one of the species we recommend, especially for small ruminant producers, because it also has condensed tannin that is useful to minimize the gastrointestinal parasite infestation in small ruminants, which is very problematic, especially when it is hot, humid and warm kind of climate in the states and other states of the Southeast. This can be a very useful forage species to include in your pasture if you are growing small ruminants. It may be also useful for cattle, because cattle also suffer from several gastrointestinal parasites. However, this forage has not been tested in cattle. Over here in the USA, not much work has been done in cattle, but in other countries, scientists have shared it is also effective for cattle to minimize the gastrointestinal parasites. So over here, this is the perennial peanuts. And these we can grow towards the South Alabama, which has the well-drained sandy soil. and this is also perennial. So, but it requires a very fertile, well-drained, sandy soil, and once it is planted and maintained well, it will just come up every year. So this Sericea lespedeza, it has a very deep root systems, and once it is established well, and if we do not overgraze, it will be there for a long time. So this is the one-time investment. Basically, we have worked with numerous farmers, as well as we have established this in our research site, and this is not going away. So warm season annual legume are cowpeas. There are more. I'm not presenting everything here, but what I have chosen, which can be grown in most of the Alabama, and which are not very difficult to grow, and which we have some experience, that those are the forages I have included in here. So warm season annuals, cowpeas, we have worked with cowpeas and we are very satisfied. These regrowth after we graze with the animals, that regrow well, and it will grow until the frost kills them. So this is found very useful. So this will grow in a well-drained fertile soil. Soybean, forage soybean will be the another leguminous forages which require deep loam type of soil, and sun hemp. This will be growing in a sandy and well-drained soil. So some of our other colleagues have worked in the sun hemp, but this sun hemp will grow tall, and we have to be mindful while grazing with the animals to graze on time. So if we not graze on time, it will grow tall, and most of the forages will be trampled if we include animals once they have grown so much tall. So over here, you see the picture I forgot to share on the background. This is the cowpeas. And over here, sun hemp. And this is the soybean. Now the cool season perennials, legumes, alfalfa. Now the alfalfa can also, there are a variety available to grow in the deep south, recently developed. So if you are interested, if you have a well-drained, fertile and deep soil in your pasture, if you can manage, if you can maintain the pH like 6.5 to towards 7 or close to 7 for alfalfa, then you may think about considering alfalfa to include in your pasture. So white clover is another perennial species, and once you establish it in your pasture, and then manage well, it will be there in the pasture for a long time. So it will require more soil, very productive soil. Okay, now the cool season annual legumes. So early clover, it will require very well-drained, medium to high fertility soil. And berseem clover, that if you don't have a well-drained soil, then this maybe the forage species you may want to plant if your soil is poorly drained, and if it is the loam clay type of soil. And crimson clover, that will require well-drained soil. And hairy vetch, that will require well-drained soil, that is sand. It has a very wide range of soil types. So if you any kind of soil you may have, maybe sandy soil, loam soil, or clay soil, this hairy vetch can be grown. So that can be one of the forage species, leguminous forage species that you may want to consider if you have a kind of variety of soil in your pasture. And winter peas also require well-drained, moist soil. So just the picture, arrowleaf clover. Sometimes we may be confused with the white clover, but if you look at the leaves, it has kind of arrow and this white mark also just taking the shape of the leaf. So if you look at closely, you will be able to differentiate it from the white clover. And this is not a very good picture, but it's still, this is the Bersim clover, and especially we have already talked about the heavier soil, it will be suitable for. And if you have that kind of soil, you may want to consider maybe in the black belt area, you may want to consider this clover instead of crimson or arrowleaf clover for annual leguminous forages. And here is the crimson clover and hairy vetch, and this is the flower, and this grows well in the wide range of soil. And this is the picture of winter peas grown together with the annual ryegrass. Okay, so let's talk about, once we know about the leguminous and the grass forages, let's talk about the forage combination. Okay, so forage combination means the growing the multiple forage species together in your pasture. So why it is necessary? Why do you need to think about growing the multiple forage species? So it will enhance the palatability for the animals. That means they will eat more. That will also extend the production duration. If you have only one type of forage versus multiple type of forage, definitely that field having multiple type of forages will grow for a longer duration because of the growth of growth pattern of each species will be different. So it will extend the production duration. It will also promote the productivity of the pasture because of the, when you do the combination of when you combine the compatible forage species, they will produce more. And the quality, if you combine the annual and perennial forages or the grass forages and the leguminous forages, that will increase the quality because legumes will have more crude protein and grass will have more fiber or more energy. So when we combine those two, the quality will be increased. The use by the animal will also increase because that will have a higher palatability for animals. Also, there will be increasing the variety of the forages. So animal will go and just eat in the area, from the area where there are desirable combination of forages rather than the monoculture. So we have seen that in our behavior studies. And that will, all these will improve the animal health and performance. So I think all of our producers would like to improve the animal health, animal performance, and we can do that by improving the pasture, by cultivating multiple forages. So this is the field I would like to share with you. This is the warm and cool season species, and on the background you can see some hairy bed there, winter peas, annual ryegrass. So we can do multiple species cultivation, like combining warm and cool season species in the field, or perennial. If you have a perennial pasture, you can overseed that pasture with annuals. And you can also do grass and legume forages planted together, or if you have the grass forages grass pasture already established. You can overseed with the legume forages. However, you need to be mindful which combination you should be considering. There's a suitable companion you always have to think about. So this is another field over here, chicory. This is a forb. It is not legume, not a grass, but this is forb. Like you can do the same thing, like brassicas are also forbs. Those can be also one component of the combination pasture. And over here, different kind of clover you can see, not only one clover, but several clover on this pasture, and then of course some grasses there. Okay, so one thing about the adding leguminous forages is they will make the soil very productive because they will fix the atmospheric nitrogen that we already talked about. Nitrogen fixation for crimson clover has been estimated ranging from 50 to 150 pounds per year per acre, and that will also increase the biomass of the forages and improve quality and palatability for animals, and it will also provide the diversified diet variety for animals. Same thing with when we include these winter peas and nitrogen fixation for these species has been estimated again 50 to 150 pounds per acre per year. Okay, so legume improve biomass and quality, and this is the research finding I would like to share with you. So over here, this is the Marshall ryegrass alone, and this is the productivity for season 1.92 ton per acre. Over here, when that Marshall ryegrass was combined with crimson clover, that was 40-60 ratio, and it is the productivity you can see increase with 3.94 ton per acre. Similarly, winter peas plus ryegrass 3.3 ton per acre, and hairy bay 3.82 ton per acre. Similarly, you may have already noticed the crude protein. If you look at here, 13.4 for sole ryegrass. However, when it was combined with one of the leguminous forages, it increased significantly. You can see there. So another research finding, overseeding of crimson clover in the permanent biograss pasture was found to increase the forage biomass by 40%, and the nitrogen content, which is used to calculate the crude protein, as you may know, that was increased by 27% as compared to the biograss pasture that was maintained with applying the commercial nitrogen fertilizer. So the legumes improve quality is another research over here. You can see the crude protein for biograss 8%, crabgrass 10.5%, and here's the combination of different cool season forages, Marshall ryegrass, airleaf clover, and chicory, and this is the seeding ratio over here, and you can see the crude protein increased to 19%, and this combination max Q, flex Q, white clover, and hairy vetch, and this is the ratio of these three forages, and crude protein 21%, and rye plus crimson clover 15%. So also this is the fiber that is not digested by animal basically, and this biograss or crabgrass have a very high fiber as compared to these combination forages. Sericell aspidage alone is better than, you can see, biograss and crabgrass with higher level of crude protein, and also the total digestible nutrients also higher as compared to these two forages here. Okay, so animal preference, this is another study done at Tuskegee University, and these animals spend more time in the area which has multiple forages versus which had less forage type there. So goats spend 36 to 37% greater time in those combination forage area, and sheep 39 to 49% grazing in that area. So that shows animals also like the area where there are multiple forages versus the sole forages there. And this is just a picture to show you the grass legume pasture. Over here you can see winter peas and annual ryegrass. Over here early clover and annual ryegrass. This is the tall fescue, which is mascue. As you know, the toxic tall fescue we are not recommending. This is the novel endophyte tall fescue, which is also known as mascue, and that tall fescue plus crimson clover you see here, and over here is the rye plus white clover and some other clover you can see there. So these are some of the examples of different pastures with the legume and grass species grown together. Okay, so key points: forage species should be chosen based on your soil type, also your type of animal that you are raising, that I did not discuss here because of the time. And perennial forages produced for a long time once they are established well and if we manage appropriately. Annual forages grow during their growing season, and we will have to plant that every year, unless they are the good reseeder, unless they have a lot of seeds falling on the ground before they die. And overseeding perennial forages with annuals increases productivity, quality, and as well as the production duration. And combination of grass and legume forages improves the palatability for animals, the quality of the forages, productivity, as well as the production duration. Because of all these, animal performance and health condition will be improved. And with that, our next session reminder, that is June 3rd, that starts at 6 p.m. and that next topic will be forage production plan for around feeding of animal. And please use the same link. You don't have to just re-register for this series. And thank you very much. And here is my contact information, basically email.